One of the big questions I get as a realtor in the Greater Toronto Area is, Rob, when is the best time to buy a home? So, in general, the best time to buy a home is when you are ready, your financial situation is solid, your employment situation is solid, you know that we can afford to make these payments on this property for a long time frame. But if we're looking at the micro, just at that 12-month calendar, there's really two times that I highlight for buyers to really be out there pushing for deals. And that's when buyer competition really seems to quiet down. And that would be kind of December, January, when things slow down for the winter, especially if we have a harsh winter and there's less buyers out there. And the second time of year is the time frame that we're entering right now. A little more fun, in my opinion. It's those summer months. Buyers want to be off doing other things. It's those dedicated buyers at this time of year that seem to get the best deals in a calendar year. So right now we're going to look at the numbers. How are things looking? Some classic trends that we see heading into the summer. Then we're going to break it down by price point so that you, as a freehold buyer, if you're looking at a specific price point across the GTA, can kind of go into this experience eyes wide open, knowing how much competition you are going to be up against. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Rob Marsiglio. I'm a realtor in the Greater Toronto Area with Valerie Real Estate. If you appreciate the content that I'm putting out, the data-driven insights to help you make decisions, and you feel like maybe working with me or talking through your situation, like the video and subscribe to the channel first of all so you don't miss anything going forward. Then go down in the description of this video. There's a link to book a call directly with me to talk about your specific situation. So again, book that call. I'm happy to have the chat. For now, let's get into the numbers. And we'll start with the numbers that I share on a weekly basis over on X. These are my Monday months of inventory, I call them. And months of inventory is a great gauge as to where the market is at. Who has the upper hand in the market? Is it buyers or sellers? And we do that by looking at this number. So we can see first off, the call out that I want to make is that we just saw the biggest week over week jump this past week in months of inventory, meaning that the market got a little more buyer friendly from last week to this week. I know it's a short time frame, it's just one blip. It could come back down a little bit, but again, biggest jump that we've seen in months of inventory up to 4.67. Compared to where we were last year at this time at 5.61, the market is a little bit tighter, favoring sellers a little bit more than it was last year relatively, but still, I'd say firmly in balanced market territory. And again, the rule of thumb is that buyers really do have the upper hand in this market today. Now, the two numbers that make up months of inventory are active listings and the 30-day rate of sales. That's the relationship we're looking at here. And again, the lower that months of inventory number is, the tighter the market is, the kind of more in the driver's seat sellers are, something we haven't seen for the last few years. Anyways, the active inventory picture, you can see it's been a pretty steady, gradual climb up to just over 28,000 active listings. We're still 4,400 listings shy from where we're at in 2025. You can see we don't really quite have this June bump that we saw last year at this point in time. I've been calling it for a couple of weeks. I'd expect to see active inventory really peak out this week or next before tailing off into the summer, similar to what we saw last year, before we'll see a little bit of a bump in the fall. But all things considered, and all things are equals from the sales front, we would expect to see months of inventory lower just based on the inventory situation alone. And while the 30-day rate of sales did see a big drop week over week this past week, we are still, more than 200 sales outpacing where we were last year at this point in time, which again, more sales relative to last year, less listings relative to last year. That's why we're seeing months of inventory come in so much lower in 2026 than we did in 2025. Now, these are fantastic numbers if we were trying to paint a GTA picture, but real estate happens on a much more hyper-local level than the GTA as a whole. So for the rest of the video, I'm going to break things down by listing price points, that if you are a buyer out there trying to purchase a home or a seller trying to sell in one of these listing price points, you can kind of see where the market is relative to where we were last year and kind of how things are setting up going into the summer. Again, a time of year where I feel like some of the best opportunities are out there for buyers in the Greater Toronto Area. And while those first few charts included condos as well, we're going to strip those out for the rest of the video and just look at the freehold market in general. So you remember that active inventory was down about 4,400 listings. It's not the case across every price point. And what might be surprising to you is that it's actually this sub 750,000 range that is seeing inventory gains from last year to this year. Not quite 500, but almost 500 more active listings in that sub 750K market in 2026, whereas every other market is down from last year. This is all under 2 million on this slide here. And we jump ahead to the market over 2 million, kind of that similar story plays out. So you have less inventory to choose from really in every single market in 2026 aside from that sub $750,000 market. It's the 30-day rate of sales where we are seeing things more active in 2026 than we saw in 2025. But again, it is not a one broad stroke across the board. It's playing out very differently, again, depending on those price points that you're looking at. So back to that sub 750 price point, we're seeing about 120 more sales over the past 30 days in 2026 than we saw in 2025. Same thing in that 750 to a million price point. But then as soon as you get above $1 million, it's really down or flat all the way up to $2 million. And again, over $2 million, we're talking a lot lower volumes for these list prices here. 2026 is outpacing 2025 in 6 of these 7 segments, but really this $2.25 to $2.5 million range is almost wiping out the gains that you're seeing elsewhere right across the board. So a little bit more sales activity happening at the higher end this year. I've been seeing some people say, the bottom is in for the rich. The sales figures are holding up, I guess, a little better over that $2 million mark than we were seeing sub $2 million, unless you're talking that sub $1 million price point. That's really where we're seeing most of those activity gain jumps in 2026 versus 2025. So if you are a buyer in those price points, either being sub $1 million or over $2 million, things are looking a little tighter than they were last year at this point in time. And that's going to be illustrated by this last chart that I'm going to go through today, which is actually months of freehold inventory by listing price point, again, right across the GTA. GTA being Durham, York, Peel, Halton, and Toronto itself. So in this instance, it's only 2 price points. Again, that sub 750K market is actually more favorable for buyers this year than it was last year at the same point in time. Months of inventory was 2.2 back in June of 2025. It's up to 2.63. But that's really the only break you're going to get until that $2.25 to $2.5 million range, where again, this year it's up at 6.63 versus 5.93 last year. Everywhere else, the market is actually tighter in 2026 than we saw it in 2025. But that being said, if you're considering above 5 a buyer's market, you get into buyer's market territory really as soon as you hit that $1.75 million to $2 million price range. Dips back below to this 2.5 to 2.75, but that's really buyer's market territory textbook right here in the higher price brackets. You get into, I'd call it balanced market between 1 million and 1.75 million. And then it's still a pretty soft seller's market, I'd say, from in that sub $1 million market. So things playing out a lot differently depending on the price point you're looking at in the GTA, as to be expected. But I think it's always interesting to look back at a year last year that was historically slow to see how we are comparing this year, because again, base effect plays so much into the comparisons we do. Yes, sales are up year over year, as we've been saying on this channel all year long, but that's because 2025 was such a low base. It strikes me as pretty interesting that the inventory glut and the inventory growth that we're seeing is happening at these more affordable price levels, that sub 750K mark, which is why I think the months of inventory here are a little bit higher than maybe you'd expect to see. But still pretty competitive at these price points. Still offer nights happening at these price points as well. Not all of them are successful, but I'd say this is as tight as the market is going to be for the next few months of time. So expect all these months of inventory numbers to kind of drift up over the next couple months. If you're a buyer who's out there really dedicated to the search and working hard, don't call it quits over the summertime. Try and avoid that trap of just enjoying the summer too much. If you want to buy a house, keeping your eyes open over these next couple months could provide you with some opportunities. Sellers trying to stick it out through the summer months, you got to be aware of the kind of flip side of that coin. You may need to make some concessions. We are seeing concessions made by sellers already. Part of the reason that the market is moving, prices coming down is allowing sales levels to kind of sustain and go up a little bit, because again, as I said, even a couple of years back, we're going to see kind of sales start to rebound before we see prices rebound, because buyers are being enticed by these kind of more affordable sales. So I'm rambling now, but this is the kind of the picture that I want to leave you with, and just understand that this is probably as tight as the market is going to be for the next couple months of time. Keep your eyes peeled for deals through the summer months, stick to the search, and hopefully by the end of the summer, if it is your goal, home ownership, could be in the cards. Now, if you found the contents of this video helpful whatsoever, please do not hesitate to book a call with me using the link in the description of this video below. I'm always happy to talk through your situation. Leave me a comment as well down below, or reach out via email or text. All that information is down there as well if you want this information specifically for the area that you are either looking to buy in or looking to sell in. And as always, like the video, subscribe to the channel so I can reach more people just like you. It does really help the algorithm find people that would find this data-driven information super useful for their search. Thanks so much for sticking with me right through to the end of another video. Until we speak again next time, please stay safe and cheers. If you enjoyed this video and this style of video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see some of the other work that I've done on my channel the past couple of weeks, there's a video on screen for you right now.